When this shy Filipino girl stepped onto the America's Got Talent stage, Simon Cowell barely looked up, but 90 seconds later, the entire room was crying, and one golden moment changed her life forever. This is not just a performance, it is a story of hope, sacrifice, and a voice that refused to stay silent. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because stories like this remind us that miracles still happen when you least expect them. The bright lights of America's Got Talent 2025 reflected off the polished stage as the audience settled into their seats, unaware that they were about to witness one of the most emotional moments in the show's history. Backstage, a sweet Filipino girl stood quietly, clutching the small necklace her mother had given her before she left home. It was not expensive, just a simple pendant, but to her, it carried the weight of her entire childhood, her family's struggles, and every dream she had ever whispered into the night. Her name was Maria. She was only 13 years old, but her eyes carried a depth far beyond her age. She came from a small coastal town in the Philippines, where houses were close together, money was scarce, and dreams often had to wait behind responsibilities. Her father was a fisherman who left before sunrise and returned after dark, often with barely enough catch to sell. Her mother worked long hours sewing clothes for neighbors, her fingers rough and tired, but her smile never fading. Music entered Maria's life not as a luxury, but as an escape. When storms hit and the electricity went out, she would sing softly to calm her younger siblings. When her father came home empty-handed, she would hum gentle melodies to lift his spirit. Her voice became the heartbeat of their home, something that cost nothing but gave everything. Maria never imagined singing on a global stage. In her town, people didn't talk about America's Got Talent. They talked about surviving the next week, paying school fees, and fixing leaking roofs during typhoon season. But one night, while watching a borrowed phone with a cracked screen, Maria saw a clip of a golden buzzer moment. Confetti rained down, the crowd roared, and a dream looked suddenly real. That night, she told her mother she wanted to audition. Her mother didn't laugh. She didn't discourage her either. She simply hugged her and said, "If this is your dream, sing like the whole world is listening." Getting to the audition was not easy. The family sold small belongings, neighbors contributed coins, and her father borrowed money he wasn't sure how he would repay. When Maria boarded the plane for the first time in her life, her hands trembled, not from fear, but from the realization that so many people were carrying her dream with her. Standing on the AGT stage, Maria looked impossibly small beneath the towering lights. Terry Crews greeted her warmly, and the judges smiled politely. Simon Cowell leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. He had seen thousands of singers. Another sweet girl with a big dream was nothing new to him. When Simon asked why she came, Maria spoke softly. She said she was singing for her family, for her town, and for every child who believes their voice doesn't matter. The audience applauded gently, but there was no hint yet of what was coming. The music began, simple and slow. No flashy backing track, no dramatic build-up, just a quiet piano and a girl standing alone. Maria sang the first line almost in a whisper. Some people leaned forward, others held their breath. Her voice was pure, fragile, and honest, like a confession rather than a performance. Then something shifted. As the melody rose, her voice grew stronger, richer, filled with emotion that felt too big for her small frame. Halfway through the song, the audience realized this was not just talent. This was pain transformed into beauty. This was resilience turned into sound. Cameras caught Simon's expression change, his skepticism fading into focus. By the chorus, his eyes never left her. Then came the first twist. Just as Maria reached the most powerful note, the music suddenly stopped. A technical issue froze the sound. The room fell into awkward silence. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Maria stood frozen, panic flashing across her face. This was her moment, and it was slipping away. Simon raised an eyebrow. The judges looked at each other. For a second, it seemed like the magic was broken. Then Maria did something unexpected. Without the music, without the safety of the arrangement, she continued singing a cappella. Her voice echoed through the theater, raw and unfiltered. Every flaw, every breath, every ounce of emotion filled the space. That was the moment everything changed. The audience stood up one by one. Some were crying openly. Heidi covered her mouth in shock. Howie shook his head in disbelief. Simon leaned forward, his hands clasped, his face serious, almost vulnerable. When the final note faded, there was a split second of silence, followed by an explosion of applause so loud it felt like the walls might shake. Maria bowed her head, tears streaming down her face, unsure of what she had just done, only knowing she had given everything. Simon spoke last. He said he had heard many great voices, but what Maria had was something rare, something you cannot teach. He said her voice told a story before she even explained it. Then he paused, looked at the crowd, and said sometimes, the quietest voices are the ones that hit the hardest. Then came the second twist. Before anyone could process his words, Simon stood up. The crowd gasped. He walked over to the golden buzzer. Maria's eyes widened in disbelief. She shook her head slightly, as if afraid to hope. Simon pressed the button. Gold confetti rained down like a dream. The audience screamed. The judges rushed the stage. Maria collapsed to her knees, overwhelmed, crying uncontrollably. Terry Crews hugged her tightly, lifting her up as the moment washed over her. Back home in the Philippines, her family watched on a neighbor's television. Her mother cried openly. Her father covered his face, unable to contain his emotion. The entire town erupted in cheers. For the first time, Maria's voice wasn't just filling their home. It was filling the world. But the story didn't end there. In the days following the performance, Maria faced a new challenge. The pressure intensified. Online critics questioned whether she could live up to the golden buzzer. Some accused the show of exaggeration. Others doubted her ability to perform again at that level. Maria felt the weight of expectation pressing down on her. She called her mother late one night, admitting she was scared. Her mother reminded her why she sang in the first place, not for judges, not for fame, but to speak from the heart. When Maria returned for the live shows, she chose a song no one expected, something deeply personal, something risky. As she sang, it became clear she was no longer just a contestant. She was a storyteller, a survivor, a symbol of quiet strength. Simon watched with the same intensity as before, nodding slowly, understanding that this was not a fluke. This was the beginning of something special. Maria may not have known where her journey would end, but one thing was certain. A sweet Filipino girl had walked onto a stage, faced doubt, technical failure, and overwhelming pressure, and turned it all into a golden moment that would be remembered for years. Her story reminded millions that greatness doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it walks in softly, sings from the soul, and leaves the world forever changed.